Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I'd like to call the order of Everett City Council meeting of February 7th, 2024. I'd just like to confirm for the record that Councilmember Fossey will be participating this evening's meeting remotely. City Council meets all requirements of the State of Washington Open Public Meetings Act. Community members are welcome to join either in person, remote via Zoom, or by calling in. For those who wish to participate in the future via Zoom, you'll find the instructions to register for public comment on the City of Everett website under the City Council Department. Please note, we do not allow comments of any kind of campaigning, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. We also do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin. Here. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Here.
Councilmember Fossey. Here. Councilmember Vogely. Here. Councilmember Bader.
Here. Councilmember
Ryan. Here. Councilmember Tui.
Excuse?
President Schwab.
Here. I'd like to ask at this time Councilmember Bader to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand if you're able to flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Ryan to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Stahopes people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the lands and waters. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their voices and their stories for a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. At this time, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes for January 31st, 2024?
Councilmember Ryan so moves.
Seconded.
I have a motion and a second. Clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey.
Same.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
President Schwab.
And yes. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, President Schwab and council members. Just a couple updates this evening or things to bring up. First, I want to invite the public to join us for the celebration of the unveiling event in honor of our beautiful land acknowledgement art installation in front of the Everett Municipal Building right next door. The event will be on Thursday, February 22nd from noon to 1:30, and our highly acclaimed Tulalip artist, James Madison, will be there together with Tulalip Chairwoman Terry Gobin. Very honored to have them, and would hope that the public and our council all are able to join us. For more information, you can check out the city's Facebook page or website. And then I just wanted to express my thank you to the council for digging into the very difficult topic of revenue options. I know this is a wildly unpopular topic and very difficult for us as elected leaders to think about the possibility of bringing something like this forward for our residents to consider. It takes courage. Political courage, and but it's necessary for us to continue to deliver core essential services, and just want to thank all of you for your willingness to dig into that important topic. And with that, I have no further comments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Angie, do we have anyone signed up to speak this evening?
Yes, we do. We have people in chambers, and some would like to wait till we get to the public hearing, item number 13. And I do have some written comments, so I need to read some names here. We received written comment from Ryan Weber regarding EHA Park District. And the following names are in regards to item 14, all from Everett Public Library Board of Trustees: Rebecca Freevert, Joshua Glasgow, Jennifer Gordon, Brian Hennessy, and Tondi Rainey. And so we are going to start with Jeff, if you could please come to the podium. And followed by Rebecca. And for those that are going to the podium, just take note that there's a timing system
Thank you.
to the right of you that is going to monitor your time of 3 minutes. And when the yellow light appears, you'll have 30 seconds left, and then a sound will go off when your time is up. So if you could please state your full name and city of residence.
My full name is Thomas Jeffrey Kelly. I go by Jeff Kelly. I am an Everett resident. I live in the Delta neighborhood. I am a Council Neighborhoods representative. I have been for the last 2 years. I'm here to talk about the Park District, an EHA project being developed in the Delta neighborhood. I am opposed to the planned development overlay by the EHA. I am not opposed to supportive housing resembling what is already in the Delta neighborhood. I've been talking to Everett residents lately who have a misunderstanding about what the EHA is. The EHA is a corporate political entity brought into existence by the Housing Authority Law of 1936. EHA's leadership is appointed and confirmed by a combination of mayor and city council for the purpose of checks and balances. The mayor and city council are accountable for the growth and development of the EHA. Furthermore, the Everett City Council can pass ordinances and change city codes that affect how the EHA can develop its properties. The mayor has veto powers that can at least slow down processes so actions can be further reviewed. So what's my major concern? An issue I have with the development of high-density housing by the EHA is that tax exemption benefits for the Housing Authority will affect the ability of Everett to pay for services that are needed. The mayor continues to tell Everett residents we are not paying enough by talking about Initiative 747 that capped property tax growth at 1%. The proposed plan by the EHA will increase the population by at least 3,000 people, but will bring in no new property tax revenue. Why should we pay more while the Housing Authority pays nothing? What do property taxes pay for? Safety. Everett is at least 30 police officers short right now. More firefighters will be needed and maybe a new firehouse. New firefighting equipment will need to be bought to support the taller buildings. Education. We will need to build new schools, or at least build onto current schools. We'll need more teachers and teachers' aides and more supplies for the students. Where will the money come from? Which apparently you all have been talking about. I believe these questions should be answered before going forward with the Park District and the planned development overlay. A few ideas I have to help the Everett budget, which hopefully you'll consider, would be to enact a pilot. All right, the pilot has already been built in to the Housing Authority Law of 1936 and can be made in lieu of tax revenue from the EHA. The last pilot by the EHA was in 2020 for $7,520. That is not very much money. We could find solutions to work with tax-paying developers in areas like downtown to provide an increase in low-cost housing that will not only bring in tax revenue, but should also decrease the market rates due to having more inventory. At least that's what we're being told. And work with the Housing Authority to sell low-cost, low-barrier condos to low-income home buyers who will pay property taxes. Low-cost, low-barrier condominiums could help restore the American dream and home ownership and give people an opportunity to invest in themselves and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, if Rebecca could please come to the podium, followed by Karina. And please state your full name and city of residence.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rebecca Freevert, and I live in the Northwest neighborhood, and I'm the current president of the Everett Public Library. I'm here to read a letter that was sent to the City Council regarding the proposed annexation of the Everett Library to the Snow Isle system. Thank you for listening. Honorable members of the Everett City Council, the Board of Trustees of the Everett Public Library is concerned over the structural deficit facing the City of Everett and its potential impacts on library services for our community. Our library provides community services and safe spaces which have immeasurable impact on public safety, education, economic mobility, connectivity, and freedom of information. Our top priority is to preserve and grow the library services within Everett. Ideally, we would like to see that service continued as the Everett Public Library System. Our residents are proud of their city and its services, and our library has a history and collection that are unique to our local community. However, we encourage City Council to explore all of our options to best serve the people of Everett, including potential annexation into the Snow Isle library system. We ask that our library director and the board be included in this process as equal partners. and that the exploration includes several specific research items, including but not limited to ensuring worker protections for our Everett Public Library system staff, assessment of the impact of annexation to library services for the residents of Everett, assurance that Everett will have significant representation on the Snow Isle Library Board as a large urban center joining a rural library system with very differing service needs. And finally, projections on the fiscal status of the Snow Isle Library System post-potential annexation and the likelihood of a library levy within the next 4 years. Finally, we ask that the City Council and Mayor's Office include mitigation planning for library services if an annexation vote fails and other revenue options do not shore up our budget. And we ask to be centered in those discussions as well. Thank you for your service to our community. We look forward to continued dialogue in the coming months. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you. Next, if Karina would come to the podium, followed by Lane. And please state your full name and city residence.
My name is Karina Burns, and I live in the Delta neighborhood. I work for Lowe's on Pacific, and I'm part of the Mayor's Drug Task Force. This statement is my own. It does not represent any of those places or people. I just know that I'm very much not alone in my feelings here. I'm here today to tell you I am absolutely against the plan for the EHA empire in our neighborhood. This housing build is not going to help our housing or homelessness crisis. The people moving into this building will have been on wait lists for years, and the majority of them already housed somewhere else. Our housing structure in Delta should be focused on making homes more readily available and affordable for people in the area, not on more unregulated and unaccountable affordable living. My family pays over $2,000 a month to live in units that were put up too quickly without taking functionality into account, and we suffer from constant electrical issues. Other units have had flooding issues, and then there are the bugs. We are being sprayed for cockroaches for the second time in a year that we've lived there, and we are not dirty people. They're not coming from our home. They're coming from inside the building. I live at the HNN, the new HNN by Henry Jackson Park. Folks who refuse to take their garbage out, maintain their environments, or respect what they have, force unnecessary work and suffering onto other residents, staff, and maintenance. And you cannot honestly tell me that you think that this housing development, the EHA new development, will be any different. A simple Google search will tell you Everett currently has a crime rating of between 4,000 and 5,000 reported incidents per 100,000 residents a year, and that 1,386 of those belong to Delta. That's a third at minimum. My own family experienced over 5 shootings this last year. Placing a densely populated high-rise in a Title I schooling area will only exacerbate these numbers to even higher, causing more crime. Our already overcrowded schools will experience even more strain, placing children that need extra services, like my own, at even more of a disadvantage to receiving them adequately. Not to mention the lack of proactive case management that will be offered to these newly relocated residents. We are already one of the most poverty-stricken areas in this city, with little to no affordable outlets in our neighborhood, scarce or inconvenient public transportation routes in an already over-industrialized zoning area. If any of you support the decimation of my neighborhood, then I welcome you to go ahead and have this thing built next door to you. Have it infect your streets, making more traffic, and have it affect your children's safety and security, and it can be your stress and your eyesore. We have enough to fix in Delta already. Thank you.
Thank you. Lane, if you could please come to the podium. And please state your full name and city of residence.
My name is Lane Forehand. I've been a resident of Snohomish County my entire life. I'm homeless, been homeless for 5 years. We've got a problem out there, and I'd like to help you guys do something about it, because I'm tired of not getting sleep. Police harass me. I have city workers that are harassing me. I'm disabled. I've had my cart taken away from me. I have over 200 pounds of stuff that are just my basic necessities. I don't go out of my way to bother any of the citizens. I try to get my ass back into housing. I want to go back to work. There's nothing for me. It's not fair. So if I could sit down with some of you guys or something, go over some sort of a plan. I know what's going on out there. I see it every night. I live it every night. I live it every day. 5 years, going on 6. I've been to drug and alcohol treatment. I've done the sheriff's program. We need help. And I'm willing to sit down and do something about it. And so are a few of the others, but, well, it's the police station. They don't want to come. So I'm the only one that has the balls to do it. So here I am. So I left my number. I got to go because I got to make sure nothing gets stolen off my cart. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Next, if Evan could please come to the podium, followed by Chelsea. And please state your full name and city of residence.
Evan, City of Everett. Hi, y'all. Good evening, council. My name is Evan Reed, and I'm the executive director of Bunker Arts Collective, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Just want to let you know, I'm going to make a habit of coming to these meetings at least once a month, and to just update you on our progress. So our numbers before January, based off of our last meeting, we had collected 2.5 tons of litter, 21 needles, removed 27 tags and graffiti, and we had about 40 volunteers total. As of today, we have removed 4 tons of litter, 32 needles have been removed, 35 tags and graffiti have been removed, over 100 interested volunteers. Everett PD actually joined us over the weekend. We were able to clean up Everett Avenue and Broadway, so that was a great opportunity to get some of our law enforcement out on the streets. And we also have 7 corporate sponsors now, as well as the ability to purchase our brand new vehicle, which is a 1984 GMC step van. I'm very excited. We have several call for artists opportunities, commission free murals for a handful of sites over the next few months, specifically the Snohomish County Diversion Center and the Faith Family Village. We will be doing that free of charge, and we're going to be utilizing local artists to make that happen. Based off of our previous conversation, many of my needs have been addressed, so I thank you for making that work. There is one need that I am urging the council to prioritize. Either a centralized outdoor single needle disposal drop box or a series of smaller disposal locations across the city, I think would be very helpful. Our volunteers are always at risk of possibly getting poked, as I would imagine many of our public city workers as well as our law enforcement agencies. So I think we do offer the needle exchange program through the Snohomish County Overdose. I think it would be very beneficial to have a centralized needle disposal area. Thank you.
Thank you. Chelsea, if you could please come to the podium. And please state your full name and city of residence.
Sure, yeah. I actually came today with some RCWs, some packets of RCWs that are not being enforced. And I'd like to give them to the council and the mayor if possible. Could I have somebody pass them around, please? Thank you. Hopefully, everybody gets one stapled, one clip. Please start with the mayor.
As long as one goes to the clerk, we'll make sure that everyone gets one.
Beautiful, thank you. They're kind of the premise of my speech here, so do I have to push a button, or am I good to go? Okay. For the 7th time in 15 weeks, hello, council and Ms. Mayor, happy to see you today. My name is Chelsea Gray. I've been a resident of Port Gardner since 2015. Before you is a list of RCWs. EPD does not appear to investigate or enforce. Juxtaposed to receipts of RCWs parking infractions that EPD does enforce, and does so against women reporting violent neighborhood crimes instead of investigating the crimes that they came to report. And my comment is brief today because my question to you is, why is that? This is a long list of RCWs, all having to do with stalking and the Washington Cybercrime Act and every RCW and statute therein. Not to mention, stalking and general harassment and cyber harassment. And I realize that these crimes can be difficult to investigate, because they require certain specialized knowledge. But I guess my point is, what is the city's excuse and how does it justify not investigating these sort of crimes happening in this neighborhood? I mean, just blocks from here on this very street. My question is why? Why? And I'm willing to cede my 1 minute and 15 seconds, I guess, for an answer.
Well, I can tell you that our police chief is here, and he can follow up with you or have someone from his team that's standing behind you follow up with you. He reports directly to me, and then he
Yeah.
can follow up with me once you guys have had that conversation. And
That'd be
I'm happy-
great, because we already had that conversation, he and I, 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and probably, well, I don't recognize these specific gentlemen, but I've gone all the way up the chain from my reporting officer to his sergeant and to the lieutenant, and then to the deputy chief, okay, and then to the chief right over here. There really is nowhere else for me to go with this but to you, and I'm going to keep doing it because I don't have another choice.
So again, I'll ask you to follow up with the chief right now, and then
Sure.
he can follow up with me post this meeting, and I will follow up with you after that.
Okay, would you make sure the chief gets a copy just today?
I
'Cause
will.
He doesn't have this copy.
I
Thank
will.
you so much.
Thank you. And that concludes our public comments until public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to council comments and liaison reports. I'm going to go with Councilmember Fosse, since you're remote. We'll start with you, so I don't forget you later.
Thank you, President Schwab. Make me go first. I just wanted to request the speaker that came, the gentleman who was homeless that was having issues. He said that he had left his phone number. I assume that the mayor will be having folks follow up with him.
Yeah, I directed folks while he was still here, and he's out speaking to one of our sergeants or lieutenants right now.
Would it be possible in about 2 weeks to have a follow-up with council to just kind of see how that process goes, to see what kind of assistance that he may be getting within, the legal rights of us understanding what's going on, that case, what was provided, not necessarily breaking any confidentiality rules.
Sure, we'll report back either under admin update or just via email to the council.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I assume that administration will be able to respond to some of the library concerns when we get to those things on the agenda. And as well as some of the speakers that were concerned about the Everett Housing Authority item. Would that be more of a convenient time to respond to some of their concerns on the agenda?
Yep, as those items come up, we're happy to speak to that as well.
Great. And I think that covers my main concerns, other than just thank you everyone for providing public comment. I always appreciate that. And that's it for my comments tonight.
Thank you. And next is Councilmember Zarlingo.
Thank you also for the public comments and for the comments to come, and also to the Bunker Arts Collective and Evan. Great to see people take initiative like that, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Vogely.
Hello, everybody.
Westmont Holly Neighborhood Association had their meeting recently, and Corey Hurt, traffic engineer, provided an overview of the school zone cameras that are coming to Casino Road at Horizon Elementary, as well as the grants provided for the Vision Zero studies that will take place to gather data on all the I don't know if it's all the intersections, but all the intersections in Everett to start planning for zero road deaths. That's Vision Zero, which couldn't come at a better time considering the numerous collisions that plague our streets. Police Chief DeRoos answered many questions from the neighbors, from how patrols are staffed and training for if there is a school shooter, and the recent standoffs and car prowls. I also stood in front of the group and had great interaction about the possible revenue sources for the ballot, the possibility for the ballot, and the complexities of city budget and accounting practices. My favorite part, though, was painting rocks with 2 young children that came with their adults. And it was at the library, and so I'm just mentioning that because we had somebody speak about the library, and it's a good place to have community gatherings. There's also, I didn't mention it because I didn't know about it yet, but now I do. And the city announces call for artists for new Casino Road area utility box art project. And I made a couple flyers, and I'm gonna put them up in my neighborhood. But it's theirs with a little bit of my little art on it. So look into that. And as the new liaison to the Parks Board and Tree Committee, I was pleased to learn that the city hired an urban forester back in April of '23. Maybe I knew that already because Paul is very good at telling us all the things. Sorry, Councilmember Ryan, and maybe I just missed it, but he hit the ground running with assessments, tree inventory partnerships, and tree planting. A neighbor asked a question about the gazebo at Clark Park, and I am also curious about the answer to their question, which is, where can the public find the financial information regarding the various options for removal or demolition or rehabilitation of the structure? I remember years ago at the Historical Commission, pre-COVID, speaking about shutters and other options. I think that was also in the newspaper. I also remember hearing about a dog park at Clark Park, but I can't remember which meeting that was in. And then my question to add to the neighbors is, why can't we have both a dog park and a gazebo? I understand the desire to rid public spaces of the poor and drug afflicted, but as we know from generations of classist planning choices, incarceration without viable exit plans, addiction stigma, and a general lack of areas to congregate, removing a structure used for neighborly fun as well as basic shelter will only move along those in need to people's private property and city right-of-ways. And then, of course, more and multiple arrests that cost the city money we do not have. And on today, February 7th, also known as International Clash Day, I wish to remind folks to read up on and know their rights. We are all in this together, and authenticity and honesty is better than power and control. I also wish to recognize The Clash as being an anti-racist punk band of the 70s and 80s that sang about social problems such as career opportunities, unemployment, racism, and oppression. They were anti-fascist, anti-violence, anti-racist, and pro-creative. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Bader.
I attended the Puget Sound Regional Council Growth Management Policy Board meeting last week. They're beginning a study or review of the standards that are set for what should allows one to qualify as a regional center. We have 2 regional centers here in Everett, one a regional employment center, the Southwest Everett Industrial Area, and then downtown. So they're beginning that study. We'll see what it moves forward. There might be some pressure to add more regional centers and expand the definition, but obviously there's some virtue in keeping it pretty tight as well. So I'll inform the council as that study moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ryan.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Always good to see a full Chambers. Great to see everybody. My only update is I was going to mention the calls for artists, but glad that Councilmember Vogely was able to touch on that. But this last week, I was able to attend the inaugural Mayor's Drug Task Force meeting last Thursday. I'm the council liaison for it, and it was just a really incredible room of people with lived experience, with work experience and life experience and educational experience. And I believe there's about 30 or so folks that are on the task force that are going to be working to come up with some potential policy suggestions for the council and the mayor to take into consideration on ways that we can tackle the drug crisis head on here in Everett. So I look forward to continued conversations with the group and coming up with some great solutions. Thanks.
Thank you. And I too always love to see a packed house. I appreciate it. I didn't have to beat too many people tonight, so I appreciate that. I'm going to use my time to tally the votes for the Baseball Stadium Fiscal Advisory Committee. This is something that was established by ordinance, and the council selects 4 members, and then the mayor's office selects 4, and then the 8 total select the 9th person. It also includes council liaison, non-voting members, school district liaison, and someone from the Aqua Sox as a liaison. Did I get them all? Whew, all right. So just what I'm going to do is read off each individual votes. Council members, we submitted 4 names, and we're going to tally them in public. So I have the envelope kind of like, so we'll start off. Yeah. So there were 29 applicants, and the council, we really appreciate all of those that were interested. It was really a tough choice. We had so many good applicants, so we're all very appreciative of those who put their names out. And I always encourage the public. We have so many commissions and opportunities to have an impact on our city, so I really appreciate those filling out the information. So being that, I will start, and then Angie, you have a tally sheet, so you can help me in case all right, thanks. All right, so I'll start off with, let's see, okay, with myself. I nominated Dan Murphy, Maury Troutman, Haley Statema, and Ethan Fall, sorry. Okay, Councilmember Ben Zarlingo nominated Maury Troutman, Brian Wheeler.
Sorry, what was that name?
Maury Troutman, Brian Wheeler, Haley Statema, and Michael Wallace. Councilmember Toohey nominated Daniel Leach, Haley Statema, Maury Troutman, and Ethan Coffey. Councilmember Bader nominated Michael Wallace, Joshua Yan, Jesse Free, and Dan Murphy. Mary Fossey nominated Erica Dias, Brock Howell, Dan Murphy, and Justin Polachuk. Councilmember Ryan nominated Mark Runyard, Ryan Crother, Ethan Coffey, and Erica Dias. Councilmember Vogely nominated Ethan Coffey, Ethan Fall, Jasmine Wilson, and Reese Averill.
What was the last one?
Reese. Averill. That's quite a spread. So it looks like we have 4 nominated with 3 votes each is the highest. Dan Murphy, Ethan Coffey, Haley Statema, and Maury Troutman. Is that what you have?
That is what I have.
Okay. Well, thank you, council members, for submitting your information. And those are our, so at this point, I'd ask for a motion.
Yes, move to approve the selection that was previously read.
Okay, and that'd be Dan Murphy, Ethan Coffey, Haley Statema, and Maury Troutman.
Councilor Ryan seconds.
Okay, I have, any comments?
Well, a quick one, I guess. The spread kind of reiterates what I noticed in going through all of the applications. I really appreciate those applications. It's overall a stellar group of people, and I made the suggestion that we keep track of all of that because we need and appreciate the involvement of that in our boards and commissions, and it was truly painful to have to reduce that to 4 people because it was just such a great group with really good, not only an enthusiasm for the city and this kind of effort in doing the right thing, but also great deep expertise, including on some large projects, project management, and expertise in labor and all the things we're going to have to do right, however we make this go forward. So I want to express my appreciation to all of them and my regret at not being able to vote for just about every one of them.
Any comments? Councilmember Ryan.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it was an incredible pool of applicants. We're really lucky to have so many engaged residents that are excited about the stadium. And I worked really hard to look through all of the applications with the lens of a fiscal advisory committee. And there's a lot of applicants that did have auxiliary qualifications, and so I'm hopeful that as we go down the road, if it's looking like this is a procedure or this is a project that we'll be taking on, to have some more, have these people brought back to possibly inform different elements of the stadium or whatnot, things that are more maybe in their wheelhouse of expertise. But yeah, it was a really great group of folks, and just glad to see them all come through, and it was very difficult to take the pick. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Bader.
Maybe more process question, President Schwab, but
Yeah.
obviously, if we approve this motion, it will express the will of the council. But just wondering, since none of those got a majority of 4 council members, are we at the point where where these choices really do express the will of the council, or would another or better mechanism be that we take the ones that received a nomination and as ones to move forward, but then have another round so that we have nominees that have at least 4 council members that have supported them. So just throwing that out there. If my fellow council members feel that that now they're ready to coalesce around these 4, I totally understand that as well. And obviously a yes vote on the motion before us would mean that it expresses the will of the council. But just throwing that out there for my fellow council members to ask.
Well, just for my tally here, it looks like there were 17 that got at least 1 vote, and then 3 that got 2. So, I mean, it guess depends on your perspective. A person with 3 votes seems to be a standout. I actually expected more ties. So, and unless there's a motion or something we want to amend to the process.
I'm certainly happy with the 4 that received 3 votes, so I'm happy to support the motion, but I just want to raise a concern that are we feeling that those 4 with only 3 nominations expresses the will of the council. So, thanks.
What would you suggest out of that grouping then? Because we have 4 at 3, 17 total got nomination, 3 of them got 2.
Yeah, I guess I would have suggested we cut those that drop didn't have 2 or 3 nominations. But again, if my fellow council members are happy to move forward with the motion, then I totally get that as well. But anyway.
Okay. Councilmember Vogely.
To reiterate, the mayor has 4 to choose as well, all on her own. And I'm sure with, other folks. If to please both parties or all parties, perhaps the 3 that got 2 votes could be revoted on, and the council could choose that one, and then the mayor could get 3, since we could make things difficult, or I'm just happy to go forward. My sadness is that there are, I don't know who Maury Troutman is, I don't think, but there's no people of color on the list that we've chosen. So that's just my comment, but it is what it is. I know that people were chosen, it's just how all laid out.
Okay, Councilmember Zarzingo.
Well, I recognize Councilmember Bader's question about that, and I see the nature of it. I think it's quite a legitimate question to ask. And I think in this case, I'm comfortable with the voting.
And so you lost the.
I'm comfortable with the way we've gone through this because I think it's driven in part from the math of it by simply the large number of applicants we had and the small number of votes. So in that sense, I absolutely recognize the question or concern, but I also think that given that, the way that shook out and the way we ended up with that set of 4, that sort of statistically, mathematically makes me feel like that is headed in the right direction. And I guess one other comment that I meant to make before is that I think this is also a group that's going to be asking, they're not deep skeptics, but they are careful people, and I think they'll be asking the right kind of questions. And so in that sense, for both those reasons, I'm comfortable with this group.
Councilmember Ryan.
Great, thank you. I guess my question is if there have been, what the process has been for similar types of committees of this structure.
This is a new committee, so we haven't had a committee like this. This is the model of how we are selecting this is kind of slightly modeled after how we selected council members, which have a lot more power and authority than an advisory committee that is just an ad hoc for a particular project. So I think we're giving this a really good fair amount, and I very much appreciate this dialogue. I can tell you that, so since we don't have any comparables, we don't really have something like that, but I will give a good hard look to everyone that the council nominated when I am appointing. I haven't reviewed the list, honestly. I was like, oh my gosh, was I supposed to do that tonight? I haven't had the opportunity to review the list yet, so now that I have your 4, if you pass this, I will look at your other folks that were nominated and not appointed, as well as things like diversity, whether it's geographic or ethnic or other. So I'll try to kind of take all those things into account and along with the fiscal expertise that we're really wanting for this committee. So I'll try to balance your nominees, if possible, together with Scott Pattison, who is the project manager for this project. So,
Great, thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to delay this any further. I'm comfortable moving forward tonight.
Councilmember Fossey, would you like to, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I guess the Everett channel dropped off, so I heard a little bit of what Councilmember Bader was talking about. And I do have like I don't want to delay for a long time, but given where we landed, and not saying that we would land anywhere different, I kind of wanted to review the final recommended top people before I actually voted on them. If that's, do we have enough time to do that? I went through, but now I'm, scanning back through to see who all that we ended up leaning towards.
Well, if that's a question, we have a motion and a second. There could be a motion to table.
I
we
did
could
hear,
discuss the
unfortunately, I did
qualifications.
not hear the motion or the second, and I did not hear the commentary afterwards. The last, it was cut off when the Everett channel died off, was,
Are you asking for the 4 names?
no, I am
Okay.
not. So I did not hear the sentiments from
Oh,
other
yeah.
folks, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. Well, right now I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
So further discussion, you could probably give a quick, to Council Member Fosse's point, a quick 1-minute bio of each of the 4 top candidates. Do you have I don't have the paperwork. So Scott, do you have
I
that?
have it here right now.
So Scott, do you want to, so it's Dan Murphy, Maury Troutman, Haley Stratma, and Ethan Coffey are the 4. Can you give us? Would that help?
Was that helpful, Councilmember Fosse?
I don't know.
Well, without the bio, no.
Okay.
So the 74-page document that was sent
Yeah.
is not searchable by word. So I'm scrolling through trying to read the bios myself, but if somebody could read a little bit about those individuals, that would help me.
Okay. Great. Well, I'll just go over the first one that was handed to me. Well, you put me on the spot. What do I say in here, huh? So Maury Troutman is the first one before me. I'll just read, how about if I read the background?
Great.
Because there's several questions. The question is, please provide background experience and qualifications that would assist you in serving on this Board of Commission. So I'll just build just that one, okay? I'll read for word. For 40 years, I've been in business and a property owner in the around downtown Everett and vicinity. I bring expertise in the financial industry, commercial real estate, ownership and development, business development and ownership, and community involvement. This is applicant Haley Statema. And once again, professionally, I spend a lot of time crunching numbers to make budgets work and reduce financial stress for clients of whatever I work. Currently, through scholarships and research support at WSU, nonprofit, and higher education work teaches you the rules you must follow and how to navigate the gray areas. I have experience working collaboratively across many entities to accomplish projects such as the Village at Casino Road launch, the WSU Alumni Association Volunteer Boot Camp launch, the DEA SIP and SHOP, and more, helping everyone share their voices and coming to conclusion that better our society means the world to me, and I hope to help with this here. Okay, this is Ethan Coffey. And this, once again, this is the same question that this is please provide background, experience, and qualifications. I work for the MLB and have, following the contraction of minor league baseball since 2016, I've worked on the field and behind the scene of 20 or 30 MLB baseball stadiums, which are used for a variety of events, including concerts, weddings, winter wonderland lighting, displays, and much more beyond baseball. I hope to contribute ideas and advice as Everett builds a new gem. Okay, and then my last applicant, Omar. This is Dan Murphy. Good thing I brought my water. I feel well qualified to provide pertinent contributions to this committee efforts, given my background. I'm an 18-year resident and homeowner in Everett with extensive civic and political engagement. I'm well versed in the finances and ongoing revenue issues affecting city government. As a degree in physical education graduate, I have a decades-long career as a youth sports coach with YMCA of Snohomish County, the Irish Soccer Organization, and the CYO sports program through the Archdiocese of Seattle. I currently work as an employee in the athletic department at the Everett Community College and with the Everett School District, both prime users of the current sports complex at Everett Municipal Stadium. Most importantly, for the past 2 years, I've handled public address announcing duties in the broadcast booth at Everett Memorial Stadium and Funko Field for baseball games played by the Everett Merchants, the Everett Trojans college team, and the Everett High School Seagulls, as well as a prep football, soccer, and summer schedule of the Everett Royals football team competing in the Gridiron Development Football League. I'm well versed in both the features and the drawbacks of both facilities and how they affect attendance and overall fan experience. I have been a part of numerous promotional activities involving all manners of local personalities, elected officials, former athletes, and I can offer chapter and verse of the challenges presented by staging such events in those facilities, as well as solutions that would enhance opportunities to drive attendance and revenue as future sporting and civic events. Actually, it's quite diverse. So there's I just picked that one section.
Council President, I thank you very much for reading through those. I think that does a greater service to the community to hear about all the folks. I do not have any hesitation about voting today, but I do have a question regarding the mayor's selection, and will it be from the same pool of applicants that we were looking at?
That is correct. I'm looking at the same pool of applicants that you did, and as I said, I'll give an extra strong look to the nominees that you put forward.
Fantastic. I would like to just put a strong suggestion that we have a great 4 that we've selected here, but there was a couple in consideration that actually had direct experience in the building and construction trades, and that might be an important perspective to consider for the other positions.
Okay, any other discussion? All right. Nope. Councilmember Vader, I saw the thumb go up.
This thing does have a Band-Aid.
All right, okay. Okay, good, thank you, Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you. So the charge of the multi-use facility, whatever the acronym is. So it says, in addition, there's going to be 1 representative from the state legislature, the Snohomish County Council, Everett School Board, Aqua Sox team, and Everett City, and 2 from the Everett City Council. How are those folks being selected?
I've already talked to the school board, and Carolyn Mason is willing to serve in that role, and she's a very long-standing school board member as well as an Everett resident, so it seemed like a good fit. And I met with superintendent today, and he confirmed that was a good fit. So she is the selection for the school board, and I haven't taken any other steps yet, but we'll certainly work collaboratively with council president on that.
Great. For some of the other elected bodies, would their designee be a suitable person as well? Like for the state legislature, or the Snohomish County Council?
From the state legislature, I have.
Oh, you went on mute.
For the state legislature, I have actually a particular opinion that might be helpful, who has double whammy role, but, you know, I think I'm open to discussions on how that would work, for sure. This is our group. We want the best folks to move this path forward. I think my only leaning is some Everett focus, so folks that are, I would prefer representation from Everett as opposed to from the state legislature that doesn't live in Everett. So we have 3 people that are Everett residents. That would be my primary focus.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And for the council representatives, I was considering appointing myself, and then Councilmember Fossey expressed interest for this other city council position. Okay. That was during our retreat, was when we had that discussion. Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second before you. Any other discussion? Okay, clerk, will you take the roll?
Vice President Zarlenko?
Yes?
Councilmember Fossey?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. Okay, well, that was good. Thank you. That was quite a report. Who do I have left here? Wow, all right. Do we have an administrative update? We got a lot of rhythm there.
Good evening. I'll be brief. 2 things. One, Jennifer shared the weekly legislative update via email on Monday. She was unable to be here tonight. She's in Olympia. She welcomes any of your questions, so take a look at that if you have not had an opportunity to do that yet. Our main focus continues to be support for changing the property tax increase limit. We're also excited about the very new possibility of funding for our street medicine team that Julie shared information about with the Health and Human Services Committee last month. And then secondly, to Councilmember Vogel's questions about Clark Park, more information will be coming. It was noted in the Council Digest yesterday. We do plan to follow up with the appropriate land use and historical review processes. We're still reviewing those. I'd like to note that we have been working very closely with the neighborhood, those most impacted, and have had many discussions about Clark Park and what opportunities there are there, and what's best for the neighbors. So we've heard a lot from them and are working lockstep with that neighborhood. That concludes my update.
Thank you. On to our city attorney.
No report and no executive session.
Okay, thank you. Next, do I hear a motion for the 5 consent items, 1 through 5?
Councilmember Ryan moves the 5 consent agenda items.
Seconded.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Clerk, will you take the roll?
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes?
Councilmember Vader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. So like I have done lots of reading tonight, next we'll go to the 6 proposed action items, and I'll be reading them all into the record as the first reading. Council Bill 2401-77, first reading, adopt an ordinance closing a special improvement project entitled Emma Ewell Park Improvements, Fund 354, Program 064, as established by ordinance number 3797-21. Third and final reading will be February 21st, 2024. Council Bill 2401-78, first reading, adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Edgewater Creek Bridge Replacement, Fund 303, Program 115, to accommodate all costs for the improvement and repealing ordinance number 3719-19, third and final reading, also February 21st, 2024. Item number 8, Council Bill 2401-79, first reading, adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Forest Park Pickleball Court Installation, Fund 354, Program 093, to accommodate all design and permitting costs for the project in amount of $250,000. Third final reading, 2/21/24. Item number 9, Council Bill 2401-80, first reading, adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Kiwanis Park Renovations, Fund 354, Program 090, to accommodate all projects costs in the amount of $411,000. Third and final reading, 2/21/24. Item 10, Council Bill 2401-81, first reading, adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled Larimer Barn Demolition, Fund 354, Program 097, to accumulate all costs for the project in the amount of $85,000. Third and final reading, 2/21/24. Item number 11, Council Bill 2401-82, first reading, adopt an ordinance closing a special improvement project entitled Madison Morgan Park Improvements, Fund 354, Program 063, as established by ordinance number 3819-21. Third and final reading, 2/21/24.
President Schwab,
Yes?
that was 3818-21.
Oh, for the ordinance to establish, okay. For item 11, thank you for the correction. Any council comments, questions of any of these? Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, just one on item 7, Council Bill 2401-78. This has to do with the Edgewater Creek Bridge replacement. That's a longstanding and complicated and very large project, and I guess I'd like to recognize because of some regulatory complexity, there were delays in that and the need to get more funding, and I'd like to thank administration and Public Works for arranging for that extra funding, going really above and beyond the call there to help reduce the burden on our local taxpayers and community members. That's been a heavy lift. It's a bridge that really needs replacement for a variety of reasons, and I'm really looking forward to getting that underway. It'll be inconvenient while it's underway, to say the least, especially for our transit riders, but also for our commuters. But of course, a bridge that falls down in an earthquake would be even more inconvenient. So anyway, that that's just big. It's big financial, it's big complexity, and administration, the Public Works Department in particular, have made that work, especially in the face of a bunch of financial headwinds and inflation and that sort of stuff. So thanks to that group, I look forward to seeing that new bridge come to fruition.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you. Mine is in regards to number 8, the Forest Park pickleball court installation. I remember that was also a question at the neighborhood meeting that I attended, and their question was, we've been watching council and the riverfront is getting this new pickleball thing rather than the cinema, so why is City Parks putting one in? And my answer was, and so if it's different, then I want to be corrected for the record, but essentially that riverfront is a pay-to-play, and at Forest Park and indoor, yeah, and then Forest Park, because it's a park and it's fabulous and it's for the people of Everett and anybody else that wants to come, and pickleball is the new way to go, that taking out some of the horseshoes, because there is a plethora of horseshoes and not as many people playing horseshoes. And so it's just a good thing for the community, and so I just wanted to bring that up again for everybody else that wasn't at that meeting.
I'll just say horseshoe enthusiasts are not happy, but, no, you're absolutely right. The one at the riverfront is pay to play, but it's indoor, outdoor, and it is just a public entertainment option that people can participate in, so very well worded.
Oh, and then just a question, are we keeping a couple horseshoes, or are they all going?
Bob's coming.
Sorry, it's very random, but must have the answer.
Yeah, Bob Leonard, Parks and Facilities Director. The answer is yes, we are keeping a couple of the horseshoe pits. We're actually going to be adding some cornhole to those as well, making them multifunctional. And just to add to the comments, we have several pickleball courts. A lot of our tennis courts are striped for both tennis and pickleball. These are actually our first dedicated pickleball courts.
Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Councilmember Fosse, do you have any comments or questions on the 6 through 11 first proposed action items?
I do, but I will ask the administration offline.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Thanks. For item number 10 about the Larimer Barn demolition, I know there was a group that had been using that space for gardening and whatnot. So I was curious if there's been, what the outreach has been to let folks know that it's coming down, or if there's any groups that are still using it. And I just don't want to have anybody show up one day and it's gone.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Again, Bob Leonard, Parks and Facilities Director. That group isn't using that space currently, but as I was rereading this ordinance preparing for tonight, I wished I would have changed the title of this. It is not the big barn that is coming out. There are some smaller structures on there that have been dilapidated and that need to come down. So they are barns in the strict essence of what a barn would be, but not the big barn that is on the site.
Okay, appreciate that clarification. Thank you. And since I'm off mute, for the Kiwanis Park renovations, as the council representative for District 2, including Port Gardner neighborhood, I know they're very excited about seeing the park just have a new breadth of life to it. So I'm sure the neighborhood association would welcome a parks presentation about that, and also the trees that are going to be coming down as well.
Sure.
Okay, without further comment, we'll have 2 more opportunities next 2 meetings. Okay, moving on to action item number 12. Authorize the mayor to sign the 2020 agreement with Western Display Fireworks LTD for the 4th of July fireworks show in the amount of $75,000. We have Economic Development and Placemaker Program Manager Tyler here for a short briefing.
Good evening, everybody, Mayor, Council. So first I'll read a short briefing summary and then stay here and answer any questions. Does that sound good? Great. So first I'll share about the fiscal details. The 4th of July fireworks agreement for 2024 entails a budget of $75,000. This budget is a full service delivery of a 20-minute fireworks show launched over Port Gardner Bay. Expenses include mortars, supplies, firing equipment, insurance, permits, barge and tug, labor, and computer choreography. And it's worth noting that the budget remains consistent with 2022 and 2023, and the scope of the show is the same as well, 20 minutes. Next, I'll share about the malfunction that we experienced last year. And I started the city like right before COVID. And of all of the things that were the most stressful, maybe perhaps that was the most stressful day, right? So there was a system malfunction that resulted in a partial failure. It's terribly unfortunate and very disappointing to the community. It is worth noting that the day other than that was great. You know, the parade went off without a hitch, thanks to the community-led volunteers that did that. Then everything else that we did at the park went off without a hitch. So when the fireworks, you know, it's the end of the day. It's like the crescendo, and then super disappointing. But the morning of July 5th, we got a call from the president of Western Display, letting us know that they were very sorry. They overnighted us a check for a full refund, and we received that on July 6th. So a couple months after that, they reached out to us and let us know that the malfunction was the result of a former employee, an oversight from a former employee. That person no longer works for Western Display, and we have assurance from the president that they'll inspect the show before it's loaded up on the barge and sent out to us. So it's also crucial and worth mentioning that the 2024 contract does have a clause in there that ensures that there'll be a full refund. See Section 8 of the contract. In light of these considerations, I request that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Western Display. His residents are prohibited from lighting off fireworks, possessing fireworks in the city of Everett. I do think that this is a great legal way that we can celebrate Independence Day. And it's also worth noting that approximately 50,000 people come out and watch the fireworks from all the different places, so the cost per person served is around $1.50, which is really quite low for programs. Any questions?
Councilmember Ryan.
Great, thank you, thank you. I know last year there was also an additional $25,000 that was needed for the, to make up the cost for the display, if I'm remembering correctly. Is that gonna be, is it anticipated that that will be needed again this year?
No, the $75,000 in this is strictly for the fireworks. The event is paid for through my municipal arts program, M&O budget, and then some lodging tax funds as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councilmember Zavingo.
Well, his modesty will probably prevent him mentioning it, but our Councilmember Scott Bader was a prime driver behind the parade for the 4th of July. So thank you to Councilmember Bader.
Any other questions? Councilmember Fosse. Okay.
I'll make the motion for item number 12 then.
Okay.
Seconded.
Okay, I heard a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Just segueing on, since I get the opportunity, we do need more volunteers for the parade this year. It is coming back. So whoever is hearing this, we'd be grateful if you could contact the Everett 4th of July, Everett 4th of July Parade.org and sign up.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
No.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Moving on to our public hearing and action item, number 13. Grant the petition for the proposed vacation of Larch, Hemlock, and First Streets lying south of 12th Street and north of 14th Street in the plat of Baker Heights, and direct staff to prepare ordinance vacating said streets, subject to the conditions and contained in the attached staff report.
Okay. Good evening, Paul McKee, city staff, real property. The proposal before you is a petition to vacate Larch, Hemlock, and First Streets lying between 12th and 14th Street in the plat of Baker Heights. As depicted on this slide, the proposed vacation area is generally situated between or east of Broadway and north of 16th Street within the Everett Housing Authority's Baker Heights development. The Housing Authority, which owns all of the property adjacent to these streets, submitted the petition in November of 2023. On December 13th, City Council adopted Resolution 7964, setting today's meeting as the public hearing to review this petition. All legal notifications for this hearing have been duly made. The proposed street vacations are integral to the Everett Housing Authority's Park District project, which plans to redevelop the site with revised street layouts for better access and connectivity. RCW 3579-030 provides that the city may be compensated for the vacated rights of way. Resolution 3147, as amended, permits the city to accept replacement land of equal or greater area and in a suitable location and alignment in lieu of monetary compensation. The streets proposed for vacation cover approximately 112,587 square feet, while the new street configurations will contain a land area of approximately 150,435 square feet, resulting in a net gain of right-of-way for the city. Therefore, it's proposed that the dedication of the replacement street alignments serve as compensation for the vacation. Staff recommends that council grant the vacation petition and direct the preparation of an ordinance for this purpose, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report provided to council. This ordinance would then be brought back at a later date for further council consideration as an integral element within a group of ordinances and approvals necessary to authorize the Park District redevelopment plan. This concludes the presentation.
Thank you, and for the information, public hearing is open, and at this time, I ask council members if they have questions, and then you'll have a chance to do comments later. Questions, yeah. Councilman Bader.
Thanks, Council President. So is the proposed dedication, as we saw on the map, actually contained in what we would vote on? Or is this just a proposal that we may see slightly different later on?
This is the proposal. So what you see on the map is what will, substantially what will be. I mean, there may be some slight variation. Obviously, it's, a little bit schematic on here, but this is the proposal.
Okay. When we vote on this, we aren't necessarily voting to approve their development plan that we see. This is just purely street vacation, street dedication.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. So we don't have to weigh in on that.
And just to be clear, we're not going to be voting on it today.
Thanks.
We will ask you to vote to close the hearing at some point when we're done, yeah.
Okay, thanks. And then, and this may be more of a subjective comment or opinion, but somewhat familiar with the area there. I mean, the streets are pretty close together. It seems likely to me that any proposed development plan in this day and age would probably not consider streets of that close proximity as something that's really developable. Any opinion you or York would offer on that?
I guess without, expanding on an opinion too much, yes, I mean, the plat itself, the Baker Heights plat, was platted specifically for particular development, which they did with very narrow blocks and, streets, north-south streets there. So to do a new development, yes, there's a certain, consideration that could be made to rearrange the property lines and the blocks so that it better suits a development. I think that would be, pretty practical for pretty much anyone that was going to do a development there.
For anybody who's going to develop that property, probably would be seeking that.
Yes.
Okay, right, spread. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Councilmember Fosse.
It says that the recommendation is that the vacation ordinance shall be subject to the terms and conditions set forth in the Park District Development Agreement. Can you remind me where that is?
It is not yet.
York Stevens Wajda, Planning Director. If the council should approve the petition today and direct staff to develop an ordinance to bring back to you implementing the street vacation, it would come along with a series of 4 total ordinances: that street vacation, a comprehensive plan amendment ordinance, a plan development overlay ordinance, and a development agreement ordinance. And so the 4 would come as a package. Per your direction today, we would develop the street vacation ordinance to link to and be conditioned on implementation of the development agreement.
So, York, can you explain why we do the street vacation first? That's probably what's the question that's lingering in everybody's mind, since we don't have all that ready-made package. What drives this process first now, and then we would bring back those other ones?
Sure. State law has a specific set of methods and timelines for street vacations that differ from those for the plan development overlay, the comprehensive plan amendment, and the development agreement. So we needed more lead time to start this process into motion in order to hit the finish line with all 4 of them on the same day, because all 4 of those pieces are interrelated. So normally we wouldn't bring one specific component like this in isolation, but we had to do the resolution, November was it?
Resolution in December.
Resolution in December, which set the date for this petition, which sets the date for that ordinance. The other ordinances follow our normal ordinance procedures of 3 readings. We anticipate bringing that package, the plan development overlay and comprehensive plan amendment, are going to the Planning Commission for a public hearing and their recommendation on February 20th. That will clear the path for the council to take it up with that recommendation, join with the development agreement and the street vacation. I have penciled in here March 6th for a city council briefing on the package of all 4 ordinances, followed by 2nd reading, 3rd reading, public hearing, and council consideration with any other meetings in there, potentially some built environment committee meetings for additional questions, answer, and discussion.
I want to say something real quick. I stand corrected. We are looking at a proposed vote for the vacation part of the ordinance. So I want to make sure I was clear on that.
And just to be crystal clear, it would be a vote to accept the petition and direct staff to draft an ordinance. So you would still have full discretion whether to actually approve the vacation or not in that series of meetings in March.
Okay.
This just is a procedural step to put that on the calendar, essentially.
Okay, that's where I was needing to be corrected. I had a real question. The scope and height of the proposed development, whether or not we vacate the roads or not, that's a separate issue, correct? Because
Correct.
Just like Councilmember Bader suggested or asked, vacating these roads and the reconfiguring them really is probably what any developer would want if they wanted to propose some sort of development for that property. So that was I guess in a way I'm asking your opinion.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
I agree with Paul's sentiment.
Yeah, okay, great. Any questions? Councilmembers, Alvingo.
I know we've had one presentation on this before with some conceptual drawings, and there have been discussions of everything from supportive housing to affordable housing. And I guess as currently envisioned, can you give me a sense of affordable versus market rate? What's anticipated at this stage?
Yes, at this point, which is an application has been made, and the materials that are going to the Planning Commission for the February 20th meeting represents a development of about 1,500 dwelling units in a cluster of buildings, of which 126, I believe it is, would be low income and dedicated for income qualified households. Those would be replacements for the remaining Baker Heights. The name is already fading from memory. Remaining Baker Heights units that had been vacated several years ago. Some of those had been replaced at, I believe it was Madrona Square, and the balance of those 250 some units would be part of the Park District development. The rest of those would be, Jason has a specific term for this, mixed income, we will say. somewhere in the neighborhood of market rate with an attempt, and EHA will be able to explain it better than I am, but their intent is to target essential workforce housing that would be closer to middle income spectrum.
Okay, and thank you. And I guess for more on that, we can watch the Planning Commission hearing that will come.
Yes, and built environment on February 14th, I think we have penciled in. We can take some time there, and then you will get all the information and more in March as a comprehensive package.
Thank you.
Councilmember Vogely.
With all of the clarifications, and not thinking that this will happen or putting hope out there where it doesn't need to be, if we voted no on the street vacations, then that would essentially say, don't even start the rest of the 4 ordinances.
If there was a no vote today to grant the petition and start the street vacation in motion, it would at the very least mean a significant delay for the project. I think the project would have to be reworked into the existing street network, or a different vacation dedication idea would have to come together. So I would call it definitely a delay until a different direction was identified.
Understood, just want to put that out there. And I would love to hear public hearing people's stuff. So that's all my questions.
Yeah, that will be next. Any other questions related to the presentation? Yeah,
One quick question.
Councilmember Bader.
Sorry, thanks, Council President.
Yeah.
On the proposed dedication, I don't know if you can bring up that slide real quick. Does Fur line up with an existing street already? I can't bring it up on my device.
It's not an exact match at the north end, is that what you're talking about?
Or at the south end,
At the
either
south
way.
end. At the
Let's
south end,
like-
it does line up with another street.
Is that Pine?
Probably.
I don't know. Anyway, okay, just thanks. I just was curious about that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the presentation by council members? Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. At this time, are there any members who wish to speak from the public? Angie?
Yes, there are. So we'll start with Jean. If you could come to the podium, followed by Sonia. And please state your full name, city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Jean Carrillo. I live in the Delta neighborhood of North Everett, and I'm very affected by this project. My notes are a little chicken scratchy because my printer decided to go on sabbatical today, so bear with me. But we, the Delta neighborhood, need your help. We need your help to make this project a successful project for the neighborhood and for the city of Everett. Those of us living in the Delta neighborhood know the quirks and the needs of the neighborhood and how this planned development overlay, or PDO, will affect all of us. And as much as we need your help in navigating this process, we also have knowledge of what the needs are as this project arrives on our doorstep. So we're a wealth of information here. We've lived there. We know what's going on. We know that First Street goes through because we drive it, checking things out. When previous residents of Baker Heights were being relocated, a representative of the Everett Housing Authority assured us that they were working toward a more equitable distribution of low-income housing throughout the city of Everett. I have not seen that evidence to date. Delta neighborhood currently has 7 housing areas owned and operated by the Everett Housing Authority: Grandview, Bakerview, Wiggums Park Place, Meadows 1, 2, and 3, and Madrona Square. That's a total of 636 units in the Delta neighborhood. In addition to the 1,500 units that are proposed, that'll give us over 2,136 units in one small neighborhood. Areas of concern. I know some of my neighbors are going to be touching on these in more detail. Traffic and parking. During a recent afternoon commute northbound on East Marine View Drive, traffic was backed up, as is quite common. A fire truck and an ambulance had been dispatched to the Vintage Housing. They weren't able to make it in, at least for a while. They had to wait until people either got a little time to go forward and traffic was stopped. It was at a dead stop. And I'm not sure how they did it, but eventually they did get their way into the facility. But that's a big issue. We already have that traffic on East Marine View Drive, very commonly. So fire safety is a big issue. So the proposal that most of us have heard is for 4 15-story buildings. And if you've driven by the Tulalip Casino, even going by on the freeway, that's 12 stories. So these would be more stories. That's lots of people. So I'm thinking maybe a new fire truck is going to be needed, like a ladder truck, to help those people in the event of an earthquake. A school. We have an elementary school that's kitty corner from this proposed area. And, okay, my time is up. But as a community, we need meeting space. We need so many things. And I'm sure I'll be back to talk to this again. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Sonia, if you could please come to the podium, followed by Sydney, and please state your full name and city of residence.
Sonia Bodge, Fulton Street in Everett in the Delta neighborhood. I urge you to postpone voting on the proposed street vacation until the council can better acquaint themselves with the Park District project and have a full discussion with our neighborhood association about the impact it will have on our community. During the process of developing the Park District project, there was no one on the Planning Commission board who represented the Delta neighborhood. Some of the discussion and neighbor input from the meetings having to do with the Madrona Place development were used to justify some of the features of and talking points by Everett Housing Authority for the Park District development. Meetings specifically held regarding the Park District were during COVID, and most, if not all, were virtual. I think this led to confusion on the part of neighbors in that they felt they already attended the necessary meetings and gave their input for the Park District development. Then news surfaced that EHA would request zoning changes to build higher than the existing 4-story limit. At first, we were told it could be 10 to 12 stories, and then later, news broke that they intended to go as high as 15 stories. At the City Council meeting on June 12, 2019, some residents of Port Gardner were galvanized to save Norton Park from a Housing Hope development of 44 units to house homeless students and their families. A few arguments against the project were preserve home values, maintain low density, maintain quality and character of the neighborhood. Council member Stonecipher asked for a moratorium on supportive housing located in residential zones. She said that her concerns were not with the proposed project per se. She will continue to support supportive housing, but they have concerns about the zoning code change that council adopted in June 2016 and the process that had been recently unfolding that has illuminated the extent of the changes made. Discussions, and there's 3 members here that were there at this time. Discussions ensued regarding the effects of that could result from the development under the current zoning code. Development without a robust public process, density in areas that cannot be supported by the current infrastructure, current parking standards that may not meet the needs of some projects, and the loss of open space and parkland. Our neighborhood isn't doing a NIMBY. No, we are supporting supportive housing. However, we feel neglected and run over. It looks as though because other more affluent neighborhoods can stave off high-density supportive housing, EHA has no choice but to abandon its original plans, if you go back to their meeting notes, to sell most of its 5 acres and to shove the Park District into the Delta neighborhood. Our neighborhood is crying out for services to occupy unattended youth and teenagers. After H&N Communities built their Riverview apartments off East Marine View Drive, there was a big spike in gang activity. We suddenly are faced with constant graffiti damage to both public and private property, trespassing and theft from private porches and yards, increased litter, and deadly violence. I have not counted every EHA, Housing Hope, and H&N property in Delta yet, but I know that H&N has 2 apartment complexes and Housing Hope has 1 apartment complex right next to Jackson Park. To deter illegal nighttime activity at Jackson Park's 2 main parking lots, you would not give us any gates. Hawthorne Elementary is already surrounded by a juvenile jail and many EHA properties.
We need you to wrap up.
We embrace supportive housing. We are just asking that as part of any development, especially one that does not fit in the neighborhood, may reduce the value of surrounding single-family homes, will increase density in a historically single-family residential neighborhood, and will greatly alter the quality and character in the neighborhood, you, the City of Everett, provide more resources to the community, such as a community center, a gym, a youth center, meeting space. Please be our partner in planning something better for the Delta neighborhood and North Everett communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Sydney, if you could please come to the podium and state your full name, city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Sydney Gillis. I own a home on East Marine View Drive, 4 blocks from the proposed development, redevelopment of Baker Heights. For 6 years, I worked at Real Change, which is a newspaper that the homeless sell to make money in Seattle. And I attended most all of the public meetings for Yes or Terrace, and I'm telling you, this thing is remarkably similar. Except that they've thrown out the tenants in advance so they don't get their chance to have a say in the development. But I want to say, first of all, that, you know, I'm here to show support for low-income housing. I believe in low-income housing, but this development isn't going to include a lot of low-income housing. The number just got revised from this evening. The EIS says 139 low-income replacement units, but in fact now I'm learning it's going to be 126. And so what the Housing Authority is doing, like the Seattle Housing Authority before it, is going into the private or near market rate housing development business. And, you know, some of my friends in the Delta have been saying that EHA isn't listening to us, but actually the preferred park district site plan includes a lot of the things that we have asked for: open space, a coffee shop, daycare, library, offices, retail, a community garden. That all sounds great. That sounds great. But we've learned that it all comes in this Faustian bargain. If the Housing Authority can't put up the buildings higher than the Toledo Casino Hotel in our neighborhood, they can't provide the open space and amenities that we've asked for. For one, I don't believe it, but I also believe that whatever EHA says today is not necessarily what it will do tomorrow. And perhaps the council and this city is already working on this, so forgive me, but I urge you to use this comp plan amendment process, the Park District Development Agreement, to secure an agreement with EHA that guarantees residents will get the open space and amenities the Housing Authority is promising, or at the very least ensures that EHA will not sell off half of Wiggums Hollow Park that it owns in the future. A large open space will be critical to the future residents of the Park District. This project will outlast many of us and your terms on the council. Please build accountability into this project now before you allow the Everett Housing Authority to build a not so very affordable set of skyscrapers in a single family neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, the danger of relying on my memory after a long day. The 139 that's in the environmental impact statement was correct. The 100, whatever I said before, was not correct. Also, supportive housing, which is housing that includes wraparound services delivered to residents on site, is not going to be part of the plan for this development. Just wanted to correct those two. Correct. Not. The plan is a mixed income development with 139 units reserved for low income residents. I believe it's up to 60% area median income. The balance of that is could be characterized as market rate or middle income or a variety of incomes, not supportive housing, which is for folks who need services and not income qualified and held as such.
And not paying property taxes in for
All right, easy. We don't have debate with the city staff. Thanks for your opinion, though. Okay, well, since we got you.
We have one more public comment.
Yeah, is there any questions right now for our planning director since he's here? Okay. All right. Go ahead, thanks.
President Schwab, I do have a question. So if this currently is voted on, yes, it's not specifically an approval of the street vacation, but it's to move forward. When and where would those accountability measures that our neighbors are asking for be worked in, or could be worked in to agreements? At what time and place? Because this does seem like that's a very quick turnaround with the dates that you mentioned on there. So I'm just wondering when kind of would be the opportunity for some of those things that they're chatting about to be included.
Thank you for the question. The plan development overlay is out there and has been before the Planning Commission a couple times, and that's going to be in the packet. We're aiming for a day either side of this weekend, so either on Friday or Monday. The final plan development overlay and comprehensive plan amendment will join the rest of the package. I'll note, I should have mentioned it earlier, there's a web page. I think if you type in Everett Park District, I tested that on a couple browsers this morning. That'll bring you to the web page, which has draft environmental impact statement, final environmental impact statement, other application materials, and every public comments that have been received to date. So there's a wealth of information about it in there. Not knowing exactly which accountability measures, the plan development overlay and city regulations, of course, include a wide array of what could be considered accountability measures. The development agreement will supplement all of those, and that's what will come to the council in March. We have that framed up a little bit, but if there are any points that any council members or members of the public would like to advocate for inclusion in that, we would love to hear it, and we can work that into that first draft.
Do you have a copy of the development agreement or a draft of that currently?
Not one that's ready for review, no.
Okay.
But if someone wants to say what the accountability measures would be, such as, I think we heard concerns, if someone would like to articulate the accountability measures that could be in there.
So
then I
for
could respond
example,
to
the
that.
Delta neighborhood submitted a letter saying, here's all the different things. We've received that, so that's something that our staff is reviewing. If council members have particular items that they've either heard tonight or would like to provide our planning director in the next few weeks, you can submit those to York so that we can try to incorporate as much of that as possible into these next steps of review before it comes back to you.
Yes, I think it's very, very important that, given the size and scope of this project and how fast that it would be moving from this juncture on, that I would really like staff to review that and follow up with the Delta Neighborhood Association. Because, hearing from my neighbors, I'm also very familiar with a lot of the things that they actually spoke with regards to, because I am right by Jackson Park. That is my neighborhood. And there has been a lot of those mixed sentiments, and concerns about the Everett Housing Authority, the wonderful things that they bring, but also concerns about inconsistent information. And I would also just like to put out there, it would be very nice to have the information back regarding the Baker Heights vacation. We were told that during that vacation that Madrona would be one of those properties where those neighbors would have first right to come back and live and stay in our neighborhood. And I would like a report back from the Everett Housing Authority on how many of our neighbors did get to move back and come back to the community and get priority placement there. So just putting that out there.
Yes. Would be happy to continue to meet with Delta neighborhood representatives and address specifically the points that are in that letter. Be happy to take any points that the council would like to include in this. Ultimately, the plan development overlay and the development agreement will be at your discretion. And I will ask Everett Housing Authority to follow up on the residents from Baker Heights and to what extent some of them were able to move into Madrona Square and what their policies have been around that. Did I get that all?
Thank you very much. Angie, we have more to speak.
We have one individual left. Ryan, if you could please come to the podium and state your full name, city residence, and you have 3 minutes.
This one? Okay. Hi, my name is Ryan Weber. I live in the Delta neighborhood of Everett, just walking distance to this development. I'm here today not as speaking as myself, but as the chair of the neighborhood association to read the statement. The Delta Neighborhood Association is opposed to the City Council granting the Everett Housing Authority's planned development overlay request Due to a lack of support and community services in the plan, we respectfully ask that EHA develop the site with a design in keeping with the current zoning and character of the neighborhood. Our reasons for opposing the PDO for the Park District are as follows. The Delta neighborhood is already the most densely populated neighborhood in North Everett. Delta would have up to 4 15-story buildings under this plan, taller than anything in Metro Everett. Indeed, what is being proposed is of higher density than Metro Everett. The city will not commit to placing a library branch in this area, even when presented with a generous offer of 5,000 square feet at no rental cost. Sounds like good savings to me. There are no plans for a teen or youth center. We will continue to have a youth jail right next to low-income housing, a park, the lowest income elementary school in the district, no teen center to provide positive activities and a safe place after school. There are no plans to build a community center or a gym. The nearest facility is a membership-based YMCA, which is not in North Everett. Without community services like a library, youth center, gym, community center, there are no plans to build community here. We cannot have high-density housing without community. As a nonprofit housing entity, there will be no property tax revenue as a result of the development, which will have an impact on the city budget and services they can provide. The city is not planned for residential parking zones for the surrounding streets. They've been given a variance, I believe, of 0.7 parking spaces per bedroom. Vehicle traffic has been referenced. Let's see. Light rail, are we going to ignore Delta and the College District and end at Everett Station? This kind of high-rise city center urban development will require transit to accommodate for the lack of parking. And we do not believe that there's adequate plans or funding by the city or Sound Transit for a proper transit-oriented development. The city has not committed yet to investing in pedestrian upgrades in the neighborhood. The PDO plans to upgrade only sidewalks adjoining the immediate property, so residents cannot safely make it to Broadway or East Greenview Drive services. Was that the time?
Yes, your time is up. No, you need to wrap it up.
The law states I need to stop.
Just
Okay.
wrap it up, please, real quick.
Final paragraph. We have an opportunity to build a thriving, diverse community if we get this right. We must preserve existing parks and open spaces and provide adequate pedestrian safety for residents and services for any large development here in North Everett, Delta neighborhood especially. Building setbacks, parking standards, design standards, wider sidewalk width with all need to be reviewed. Without all the above listed community elements listed above, we cannot support this PDO. This is the moment for the mayor and all 7 council members to represent the people of Delta neighborhood and the future of Everett and make the most of this opportunity.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that our last speaker?
That is.
All right, well, at this time, I know there's a couple other voices in the back there that had questions. I'll do something, I'll open up the floor if you would like to speak. Someone here that hasn't signed up. And I would ask, though, that you would fill out a form afterwards. So at this time, I'd like to welcome if someone wanted to speak. Go ahead, sir. Yeah, you have to come up there and state your name and your city residence, and please fill out a card after you're done. Thank you.
Well, my name is Michael Carter. I live in Northwest, just a few blocks from this plan. I'm just mainly a question for you, sir.
Okay, we don't ask questions. You can state your statement. We can ask questions later.
My apologies.
No, sorry, all good.
It was just a concern that
I just want to keep debate between staff and residents. We can do it.
Understood. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was concerned that these buildings, if they go through, would seem to be the tallest structures between Seattle and Vancouver. Doesn't seem to be anything taller in between. They would be massive. So, just a thought.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? This is unprecedented opportunity. Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it, all your input. So at this time, I guess I'd ask a motion from the council to close the public hearing.
Councilmember Bader, so moves.
Councilmember Ryan seconds.
Okay, got a motion and a second to close the public hearing. City Clerk, take the roll.
Vice President Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
So there's no time for comment.
There would be comments if there was a motion to accept the vacation, and a motion and second, then there'd be time for comments, but
This is just to close the
this is
public
just to
hearing.
close the public hearing.
Gotcha. Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. All right, so thank you. So at this time, is there a motion to grant the petition for the proposed vacation?
Councilmember Bader, so moves.
Okay. I hear a motion to, is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, now it's time for discussion on the petition for the proposed vacation.
Council President
Go ahead.
Schwab, as maker of the
Councilmember.
motion, if I can speak to this.
Yes.
So this is purely in regards to the vacation and dedication and directing staff to propose that. I have my own opinions on the PDO, but this is not the PDO. This is just the vacation. And I strongly believe that even if we were putting single-family houses in here, this is the layout that these streets would have to take. They line up, I think, pretty well with the grid. 2 years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago, when they were here before us too, I spoke about the importance of lining up with the grid, and I still believe that. And so that, for those reasons, that's why I'm going to support this. It's not the PDO, it's just to put in a grid, which I think would have to happen regardless of what kind of development gets proposed in this area. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, I've been staring at the diagrams, and I walked this site as part of a tour and by myself I don't know, a year and something ago at the invitation of Councilmember Fosse. And sorry, I need
your
to wrap
time's
up. And I guess I would agree. I think the focus at this point is on the grid and the vacation. Mostly, I am looking forward to learning more about this, more about the concerns, and the hearing we'll see before the Planning Commission, who is our core group to understand the planning issues and this. So that's my reason for seconding this.
Okay, is there any other comments?
Yes.
Okay,
Council President.
yes,
Schwab.
Councilmember Fosse.
Thank you. My fellow council members are correct with this being, it's just the first step in the process and a necessary one, because I know my neighbors, as they so eloquently said, this is, not an instance of NIMBYism. It's more of just assuring that we are being thoughtful in our impacts to the neighborhood and community, and that we're providing the appropriate amenities and not making rash decisions. So I wanted to say thank you so much to Yorick, and I appreciate you, and thank you for working with our community, our residents, with their concerns. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes up to make sure that we can have healthy and a vibrant neighborhood, and making sure that we make those changes in the future. I'm going to be supporting this now because I agree with my other council members, and that this is the very basic step, but I wanted to say thank you also to all of my neighbors who spoke up very well this evening and clarified your concerns and your needs and being a part of this process, because a lot of folks have been wanting to hear from you directly on the impacts that you were concerned about, and I think it's very clear that we have, welcomed in the Delta neighborhood development in the past, and this is just looking at it more broadly as far as the impacts when it comes to traffic and the lack of youth space and amenities, and just building things so that everyone has a place to go and that it's not a detriment, it's a positive. So thank you all around. I'm happy with this direction. And again, Yorick, you're amazing. So I'm looking forward to hopefully being involved in those conversations. So please don't hesitate to include me after your first initial kind of interaction with the Delta Neighborhood Association, because I would love to be a part of that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you very much. For me, this is not at all about the moving of streets. I think, yeah, it's an important piece and it's got to happen. But it was so interesting when Miss Budge brought up the Norton Playfield, because that was the first of my many, many difficulties being up here. And I even seconded a moratorium on that. And I wrote a song about it, and it's still on YouTube. And I am still devastated that that didn't get built. And I am so happy that there is the possibility of making certain that a lot of these very appropriate, I'm going to call them demands, even though they're not demands, very appropriate items could possibly be put forth for EHA to be certain that there's not just a coffee shop. Because even earlier tonight, we discussed the gazebo. And if there's open parks and coffee shops and all of those things which are wonderful for a community, there's bound to be lots of people that end up quite angry about the ones that are actually using the parks. So, and wow, wouldn't that, I mean, it's scary, but the tallest buildings between Seattle and Vancouver, I mean, we've been trying to get that built in downtown Everett and it just hasn't happened. So I think there's a few opportunities that might occur, hopefully. So I find that exciting, but also terrifying. So totally get it. That's my comments. Thank you.
Are there other comments, questions? Yeah, I'd like to, I'll just have a couple myself. I too in favor of changing the road vacation. I'm not sure about the scope of the project at this time. I'm not convinced it's the best thing, so I look forward to those proposals. Couple of things that I request that you brought up is I'd like to see a sales tax revenue forecast based on the amount of people and income. I know that property tax, it's a little more complicated. I'm not sure if it's where that's rated, or the EMS tax. I'm not sure if that's incorporated. I'm also concerned about the amenities. I'd said this in public hearings, if they're gonna build a big project like this, let's build the amenities first. I know there's some economic probabilities that they need to keep a business running with no population around it. How about free rent for a coffee shop or whatever else they want to put in there? They need to subsidize to make sure that they have businesses that serve the community there. Also, I'm also a little concerned about a project like this, the variation of scope that we agree on as a council. Sometimes the project has to change, but it keeps within the variation of the scope. So I'd like the scope of the project be very narrow. I'm familiar with some other projects that things start changing differently, and I realize the economics, the wall has to be higher, maybe the landscaping is different, but I'd really like the scope to be very narrow as far as what we finally agree with. And so, thanks. Okay, so any other comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you take the roll?
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse. Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Next, we have a briefing item that comes from the City Council serving as a council committee as a whole. It's likely to be scheduled at a future meeting. It's option number 14, revenue options. And we are very grateful that you guys get to burn the midnight oil with us, because normally we put your reports at the end. So
President Schwab,
Thank you for being
President
here.
Schwab, did you close the public hearing?
Oh, I did not. Oh, did I? Yeah, I did.
My apologies.
I guess I'm too fast, huh? Okay. All right. Okay, I think we're ready for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So, in response to requests from the recent council retreat, tonight I'll be going over some additional details on the steps the city has taken over the last 10 years to reduce its budget deficit, as well as items related to the cost of responding to the significant changes in our city and inflationary pressures. So on January 10th, I presented a summary list of the larger steps that the city has taken over the years to reduce the general government's deficit. The next couple of slides will expand on that information, including savings estimates where I can. Starting with the high deductible health plan that was implemented in 2020, it's difficult to identify a savings that is directly related to the new plan, as there are a lot of factors driving costs, including the level of large claims resulting from serious health conditions, which can cause a lot of volatility in claims in any given year, and the reasons why employees have chosen to stay in the old plan or migrate to the new plan. However, I think it is helpful to get a sense of the difference by looking at the monthly funding rate for each plan. The blended 2024 funding rate for the HMA Legacy Plan, which is our original plan, is $2,008, while the rate for the new high deductible plan is $1,264. That is a $744 difference. The companion to the new health plan is the Vera Clinic, which provides primary care to Everett employees. And through the clinic, the city is able to save money on health care by paying for services at cost plus a management fee, while at the same time providing excellent care for our employees. The clinic consistently gets great reviews from the employees who take advantage of this benefit. I don't have numbers for 2023 yet, but our broker's report for 2022 showed a savings of $820,000, which equates to about 164% return on investment. And the last healthcare related change was to implement a premium or funding rate share for employees. With the exception of police management, union employees now pay a 5% share on the high deductible plan and 10% on the HMA Legacy, Group or Kaiser, or the Left Trust plans. Appointives, electeds, and police management union employees pay 5% on the high deductible plan and 15% on the HMA Legacy, Kaiser, or the Left Trust plans. We also implemented 2 rounds of the voluntary separation program for city staff. Savings were generated by holding positions open for at least 6 months and backfilling at the bottom of the pay range for those positions. The first year savings for the 2019 VSP was $1.58 million and $1.75 million for the 2020 VSP. Savings have diminished over time as employees receive step raises and reach the top of their pay ranges. We entered into public-private partnerships, such as the contract with the VOA to operate the senior center. We are currently paying a management fee that is declining each year and will stop completely in 2028, at which point the VOA will be self-supporting. The net savings in 2024, which is the difference between what we would have been spending on operating the senior center ourselves and what we are paying the VOA, is about $470,000. This has been a very positive way of preserving senior center services and fully activating the facility. We collaborate with Snohomish County and the Port of Everett to deliver Jetty Island Days. We receive approximately $120,000 a year towards maintaining this popular summer program. We are collaborating with a nonprofit to produce the 4th of July parade, which is saving about $17,000. And we're partnering with the Downtown Everett Association and Rotary to keep the downtown and Mukilteo Boulevard flower programs going. And this is about $325,000. We reduced services such as the lifeguards at Silver Lake and the library's bookmobile, saving about $250,000 per year. We eliminated the most of the recreation programs and closed the swim center. Together, that reduced expenditures by about $1.25 million. We conducted 2 rounds of soliciting ideas from staff in the community to improve fiscal sustainability, one in 2014 and one in 2018. Most were fairly small, but together they've saved roughly $285,000 per year. And we also froze maintenance and operations, or M&O, budget increases for most departments in 8 out of the 10 years. The annual savings vary, but average about $160,000 per year. In addition to cuts and program changes, we looked at revenues. In 2015, we increased natural gas, telephone, and electricity utility taxes from 4.5% to 6%. We also implemented utility tax on garbage and cable, starting at 2% in 2015, then increasing by 2% over the next 2 years. Most cities in this region were already at 6% and included all 5 tax types. This change added about $5.6 million to general government resources. We aligned service fees with our peer cities, bringing in an additional $300,000. We raised the general business license fee and implemented annual renewals, which are generating about $870,000 per year. Our license fees are slightly under the average of other B&O cities in Puget Sound. We implemented fire alarm, fire inspection, and credit card service fees, which is bringing in about $400,000 per year. $20 car tabs were implemented in 2015 and bring in about $1.6 million annually for overlay and grant match for street improvements. A fundraising position was added to the animal shelter. This has proven to be a very successful investment that is supporting the veterinary program in 2024. We implemented the Ground Emergency Medical Transport Reimbursement Program, or GEMT, 2017. This is a federal program that compensates the city for the difference between the cost of EMS services and the amount paid by Medicare and Medicaid. Because fire participates in EMS calls, the general government receives a proportionate share of that reimbursement. The items on this list represent the largest of the actions we've taken. There are actually dozens of small changes that have been implemented over the years, as we have worked hard to leave no stone unturned in our effort to close that gap. The city's efforts have been significant, as you can see in the numbers on these slides. However, they still haven't been enough to resolve the general government structural deficit and achieve fiscal sustainability. So council had also asked at the retreat about what we had done to increase costs, that have increased cost over the years. And I think that we can all agree that a lot has changed over the past 10 years in Everett and pretty much everywhere. Issues around public safety, homelessness, and behavioral health have greatly increased demand for public services, including social services, which are new to the city. The growth has also increased the need for internal-facing staff support. The makeup of department staffing changes on a fairly continuous basis with ups and downs in various areas as needs arise. This table looks at 2 points in time, the budgeted FTEs in the original 2014 and 2024 budgets. Based on this view, we have added 26 public safety FTEs, including 23 police officers. We created a new community development department, which now consists of 12 and a half staff members, many of whom are social workers and mental health professionals who are working to alleviate homelessness and address problems associated with behavioral health, substance abuse, and encampment cleanups in our community. We added planners, inspectors, plans examiners, and support staff to improve our permitting process and ensure that it is viewed as a benefit rather than a barrier to developers who are considering investing in Everett. We added staff resources to communications in response to requests from our neighborhoods and council members for more communication and social media presence to improve transparency, outreach, and encourage our residents to more fully engage in civic life. And finally, we've added FTEs in our internal facing departments to support the growth in our more public facing departments. In total, we've added 67 new FTEs between 2014 and 24, 28 of which are currently supported by grants, reimbursements from other agencies, or donations. However, along the way, through prioritization, we also eliminated more than 40 positions. So the net staffing increase over that 10-year period is 26.45 FTEs. It can be helpful to look at our change in staffing levels in terms of the population we serve. In 2014, our general government staffing equated to 7.1 FTEs per 1,000 residents. In 2024, the number has declined to 6.5 FTEs per 1,000 residents. And even though we have eliminated some services, as I previously mentioned, that workload has been replaced and more by increases in others and the addition of social services as we respond to needs in our changing environment.
Really quick, may I?
Good.
I think I heard you saying the difference for each individual: public safety, homelessness, economic development. Is there a slide or something that has like each, I guess it wouldn't be each year. I heard more information that I'm seeing, which is typical, but I want to see what you just said.
So she just said that it used to be 7.1 staff members per
I mean, like the
1,000?
whole thing. So, like, maybe we can talk later, not like right now. Don't repeat yourself. But I would like.
I can provide written details.
Thank you. I would
At a
very
later
much
date.
appreciate that.
Okay.
So do you have more? Do you have anything? Go ahead and continue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There's always more.
Oh, there was always more. We've also had increases between 2014 and 2024 in areas other than labor. We've been providing $600,000 per year in debt support for the PFD since around 2007, $100,000 a year from hotel motel tax and $500,000 per year from the real estate excise tax and CIP2. However, when we took on about $27 million in debt on behalf of the PFD in 2014, we had to begin contributing about $800,000 a year from the general fund to enable CIP2 to pay the new debt service. We have invested in a variety of technology over the past 10 years to improve efficiencies, safeguard city systems and data, and to remain current with the world around us. These investments result in ongoing maintenance costs that total about $860,000 in 2024. We are among the 4 founding members of File Local, which is the multi-city tax and license system through which businesses can obtain business licenses and file and pay taxes online for city members. This service provides significant benefit to both taxpayers in terms of convenience and efficiency, and the city by increasing our visibility in the business community, which is improving compliance. There are now 10 city members in File Local, and our 2024 annual membership cost is $47,000. The city entered into an agreement with Catholic Community Services to provide $200,000 a year in funding support for their counselors at Claire's Place. Snohomish County and Providence also contribute to those services. It's been necessary to add security guards at the library to ensure the safety of patrons and staff. The cost of those services is about $260,000 per year. We added $50,000 per year to the non-departmental fund for encampment cleanups. We created CIP1 in 2016 to fund major repairs, renovations, and replacements of city facilities. We've also increased our contribution to the Property Management Fund to add resources for more routine maintenance. In total, our contributions have increased by nearly $3.7 million per year since 2014, $3 million to CIP1, and $686,000 additional contribution to property management. While this is certainly progress towards addressing those needs, it's still at least around $3 million a year short of the recommendation in the 2019 Ming Facilities Needs Assessment. We increased space for facilities and entered into an agreement with the Bezos Academy to support its lease costs at the Everett Station. And we increased the annual contribution to overlay and street improvements, which is another area where it hasn't been possible to keep pace with rising costs. Infrastructure maintenance has been particularly hard hit by inflation. The construction cost index shows a 51% increase between 2014 and 2024. And additionally, regulatory requirements relating to traffic control, pavement marking, emphasizing bicycle and pedestrian movements, and more notification and outreach have also added to the cost of delivering infrastructure projects. While the 2014 overlay program was artificially low as the general fund contribution was cut substantially to help balance the budget that year, the program as a whole is still significantly higher. Of the $2.5 million increase, 1.6 is funded by the $20 car tab fees that I mentioned earlier, and the remainder comes from the general fund. And the last slide shows a few of the high dollar items with cost increases that are driven by external factors. We would not consider these items to be discretionary. Jail fees are up 92% in '24 over 2014 due to a combination of rate increases and activity. In 2023, we revised the distribution of Snow 911 between fire and EMS based on call data. This increased the allocation to EMS and reduced the general funds portion. So in this general government-focused presentation, it appears that the cost has gone down. However, in total, with all funds, the Snow 911 costs rose by nearly $450,000 per year between 2014 and 2024.
Susie, can I interrupt just a second and just go back to jail fees? One thing, you said the cost is, due to the increase in what we pay. Prior to, so in 2014, we didn't have medical beds in the jail. They weren't rated differently, and so we probably also didn't have the high number of behavioral health, substance addicted folks in the jail. And so now a large number of the people that do go into the Snohomish County jail require that medical level, and that's a much higher rate. So it's just not the number of people we're arresting, it's the level of complexity of the people that are in the jail require a higher level of care than they did before. Thank you.
Our required contributions to the tort reserve have increased by approximately $900,000. And I think we're probably all familiar with how the cost of insurance has grown over the past few years. The city is experiencing this as well. The cost of our general liability and property insurance has risen by more than $3.3 million from 2014, or 118%. Workers' compensation is $900,000, or 26% higher. Utilities are $261,000 higher, and they would be higher yet had we not completed conservation projects such as the streetlight LED conversion that was completed a few years ago. And our contributions to the tax reserve, as I noted earlier, is nearly $800,000, or 44% higher, due to the addition of new software and rising maintenance costs. So So that concludes the information I prepared for this evening, and we know that the structural deficit, which is the foundation of tonight's discussion, is persistent, and further reductions in funding will result in cuts to services. The city is far past the point of taking even small bites out of departments without materially impacting services. I know we all want to put the city on a more sustainable financial path without negatively impacting services, and to accomplish that, a revenue solution is needed. The resolution we are asking you to consider will direct staff to dig in and develop additional details on the 3 revenue options that have been under discussion: the Snow Isle annexation, RFA annexation, and a property tax levy lid lift. While I have presented information on these options previously, staff will need to meet with Snow Isle and RFA boards to answer many of the questions you have about those options. Additional work would also be needed to determine the preferred type and size of a potential levy lid lift. So that concludes what I have for you this evening, and thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Is there any questions? Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you very much, and excuse the candy in my mouth. It was early on, and it was about the VOA and M&O. So I know that, or I remember that you said they will eventually be self-sustaining. We are continuing and the price goes down. How much are we paying this year? Because I think the slide said something other than what we're paying this year. And
So what the slide was indicating is a savings. This is the savings that we're realizing in 2024 by not operating the senior center with city forces, rather contracting with the VOA, and the VOA is providing those services, those and more, quite frankly. And so the difference between what it would have cost and what it's costing us is the $470,000.
okay.
Our contract payment to the VOA this year is $300,000.
Okay. And I know that the budget is fluid. And M&O, let's see, so each department has M&O, and they're allotted a certain amount. And sometimes there's amendments because the M&O ends up being greater than what was thought to be needed. How do we stop the extra, I don't know how to put it, but like, how do we make it so I really don't know how to put it.
Can I just say that the M&O budgets for each department, the belts are so tight.
Right.
It's amazing that we can still deliver services. The vast majority of our money is going towards staff. And every year, those departments have less money to buy paper, to order supplies, to buy wood for their projects or whatever they're doing, right?
Right.
So that's all their M&O, to buy the equipment they need to deliver services. We give them less each year, and those items cost more.
Okay, maybe I have a different question. Maybe I am incorrect on what M&O goes for altogether. Is it also outside counsel that M&O pays for? Like, we get, let's say, a law firm that is working for us that isn't our legal team.
So our part of the M&O budget for legal would be outside counsel, and they have a budget for that. Yep, they're a department that has an M&O budget, but again, it's not a particular area of the budget that we keep going up in. Yeah.
I was trying not to be specific,
So-
but now I've been specific. And how can we utilize our own overworked law team within the city and refrain from paying like an obscene amount of money an hour for outside counsel?
Well, I would point out that the amount of outside counsel that the current configuration of our legal department is using is vastly less than it was maybe 7, 8 years ago. We have some extremely competent attorneys. We are fortunate to have them on our team, and they've been able to provide those services internally. Outside counsel, I would suggest, will always be necessary for the city. There are issues that we run into that are quite specialized, and you do need attorneys that specialize in those areas. I would have to say that our legal department is making very judicious use of its professional services budget.
Okay, thank you. And then one more, if I may, slide 9, Bezos and facilities, that was put together, but I think that's the Cedar facilities area and the Everett station. So what's my question? How do they separate? And can you remind us of what we said? I think Bezos is just rent-free, but they pay for everything else?
You're correct. So Bezos does not pay rent on its space at Everett Station. That is part of their, that's a fundamental part of their business plan everywhere they go. And because they're in Everett Station and Transit owns Everett Station and Transit is an enterprise fund, Transit cannot gift that space to Bezos. So the general fund is paying that rent on the behalf of Bezos to the transit department. Facilities occupies space at Cedar Street that's owned by our utility, which again is an enterprise fund. So the general fund has to pay utilities for space lease where we occupy their space.
That is the reminder I needed. Thank you. Sure. That is all.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, a couple of things. One, you just reminded me, I remember the discussions about the Bezos Academy and also Everett Station. I don't think that that's space that we had people beating down the doors to rent from us anyway, but we recognize the rent forgiven. And a couple of things. I think our community members in this, thank you for the various measures you have responded. I know I'm not the only person on the council here who's been asking what we hope are the questions that our community members would be asking, things like per citizen, or per resident, how many employees do we have? How much are we spending? Because they can see the reductions that we've had. So thank you for a lot of different responses there. You anticipated some of those. I was looking at several different measures. And whether you look at it, no matter how you look at it, we are spending less and doing it with fewer people per resident there. So I know it's been a lot of long hours for you in doing this. I appreciate that. And then one other note that I think that the city's been doing with this health plan, I've been to that Vera clinic. It is an interesting example of how much more efficient something can be, whether it's just a checkup or a vaccination or something like that. There's a lot of benefit in optimizing the things that we do all the time, and optimizing it not only in terms of expenses for the city, which it sounds like it's been really a substantial thing, but the time and energy any one of us spends getting care there. It is vastly more efficient than I've had in most other situations. So I guess I appreciate that, and I wanted to say that's the kind of thing and I think the other council members are trying to understand here, because when we go to our community members with whatever we choose as a revenue solution, I think we want to be really prepared to answer the question about, are we doing the best we can? What are the trade-offs in this? Because all of these things are going to be trade-offs, and one way or another, this is going to be kind of painful. So anyway, thank you again.
Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you, Susie, appreciate it. And to your staff, too. I know there's a lot behind the curtain as well, hard work. So for tonight's resolution, it mentions that now therefore be resolved, city staff is directed to explore the following options for the August or November ballot, including the feasibility and potential benefits of, and 3 options, and report back to city council the findings and a recommendation no later than March 20th. Can staff expand a little bit more about, just flesh that out a little bit more for me so I know what to expect? And, when we talk about feasibility, are we talking about like voter approval, potential benefits? What are some of those elements? And then findings and a recommendation, how is this report going to be different from the other reports that council's received about potential revenue amounts and sustainability and other discussions that we've already been having about this?
So I'll start and let Susie and Lori jump in. We are not anticipating doing a poll or, is this going to pass? That is not part of the plan of what we're doing. So we are asking for you to pass this resolution so that over the next few weeks, we can really dig in and see, is Snow Isle willing and able, and what are the things that we would have to do to annex and address any governance issues? Is there a partner for an RFA that's willing and able, and what are the issues that would, we would need to address, and what are the timelines for both of those different options? And then for the property tax, there's a lot more detail of what it is that how we could frame it in a way that the public could digest something as complicated as just raising property taxes for the general fund. We'd probably want to designate different departments that are most in need and work with all of you over the next few weeks. By March, that the goal would be that we get that information back to you so that you can then continue to ask more questions, more questions, more questions. You wouldn't have to make a decision to put something on a ballot until August. So we're trying to say that by March, we'll get you a lot more information based on you passing this resolution. But that process is going to go long beyond March. And it would be obviously up to you to decide if we need to do something else for you to get to the point of voting for it to be on a ballot in August. But this is just that first step of saying, please dig into all three, or you could limit it and say, just don't even dig into this one, just do these two.
So if it were to go on the August ballot, though, wouldn't that be a May decision?
It would be a May decision, and I will share that based on previous polling that we did before pandemic, so however good that is, but that we were advised to do it on a November ballot in a presidential year.
Okay. I guess, yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to wait until August to make a final decision. I know the public is, there's a lot of public trust that needs to be garnered when it comes to asking somebody if they'd be willing to raise their taxes. So having a solid plan in place that's clearly communicated and deliberately communicated, I think would go a long way to just make sure the voters have all of the information that they need to make their decision. Yeah, I mean, I've been a broken record about this, but I'm concerned about the crunched timeline and being able to have a fleshed out, solid plan and graphics and vote and outreach and the whole 9 yards that goes with something of this magnitude. So if I were to provide direction, I would recommend for the property tax levy lid lift to not even include the temporary lid lift options, just to narrow the scope and the amount of work that that the staff would have to do. I think we all know that's a completely unsustainable option, and it's not fitting for the the need that our budget has. So I would recommend that we just eliminate that completely. Personally, I would prefer just to see a focus on the levy lid lift and just have all hands on deck for that for the next where are we at, 11 months or 9 months from today is election day. And then to shift to considering options 2 and 3, the merging of the fire services and the annexation library system to next year, especially considerations for the Delta neighborhood and concerns about the city being able to fund a Delta library. I think if we could run a library levy in the next couple of years and then with the promise to open our current library 7 days a week, open the new branch up in Delta and maybe another one in South Everett. I think that would be good, but I don't think that is something that we should be doing this year. But I do think it's important that we do consider all three options, but I'm concerned about the volume of staff time that goes into that, even though I know that there's been plenty of discussions up to this point, so it might not be too much more work to flesh out the rest of it, but that's my thoughts. Thanks.
I'd like to share a couple of things. One is for those who might be watching now or here or watching later, it's a really important message that was stated tonight, and that is we've done a lot of work to maintain our expenses as a city. And so it's pretty impressive being an employee all this time. I had questions about the healthcare changes for my family, and they worked out well. So hats off to the staff that have been here for quite a while. I know there's been some tough choices. So I think it's really important that we emphasize in the message that we've, as a team, not us, we're this group. I've only been on the council for 2 years, but all the city staff and the mayor's staff made a considerable effort to try to keep our expenses down. And I'm confident going forward to our residents saying, hey, we've done our part. I think it's key that we demonstrate that in whatever option that we move forward with. I would like to say, though, I mean, we don't have a full quorum here. These are really important decisions. The resolution before us was just an example. So it's really up to this group, if you want to make a motion with that language, you want to include all three. It's really up to us. We want to wait another week to direct staff when we're all here. So it's really up to us what we want to do as our next step. So I thank you for writing that up and preparing for the discussion for this meeting. So far, that's my input.
Yeah, quick technical thing. I think obviously we need to wait a week, I think, don't we, so we can announce to the public that we would be proposing to vote on this, I assume.
Yeah. We would put it on the agenda
Right,
for
okay.
next
Good,
week,
good.
if the council so choose, and then you could edit it accordingly.
Council can make a motion and create an ordinance with the intent today, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Council-
I'm getting the stare from the attorney.
You can adopt a resolution today. You can wait a week. It's fine either way. It's not an ordinance, so it doesn't need 3 readings.
Okay, all right, so it'll be a resolution, and, it might be good to put, like the mayor says, put it on the agenda so we could get some public input.
Yeah, and if we had any wordsmithing here, I'd have us do it right here from the dais too. Maybe we can do that during the week, or if we have anything to suggest. Just want to also echo Councilmember Ryan's comments. I too agree with a lot of what she says, but I think as we go through the process here over the next few weeks, a lot of that'll sort out, I think, in terms of, which things are doable this year versus waiting for a year, another year as well. But I just think it's time we definitely want to keep this moving forward here, and so eager to get this and get these issues in front of our voters to tell us what they see and they want to do. So glad we're moving forward and going to keep moving forward on this. So thanks for bringing this to us and all this information too.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can I just ask, so I heard some suggestions from Councilmember Ryan, and I heard also some suggestions from Councilmember Bader that maybe council provides staff some ideas as to how we might change the ordinance. If that's something that can be sent to us, and then we would have the new ordinance drafted and posted online by Monday or whatever, whenever, I'm not the council person, so Angie tells me when that posted, but, so that then there's not quite as much wordsmithing from the dais, but we can make a few edits prior to next week. Is that possible, Ramsey?
Not really.
Okay, yeah, thank you, that's why I asked. So what we have is the resolution that's in the packet, and council can review that and either make motions to change that tonight, or make motions from the dais next week to change it. Thank you.
Yeah, correct.
We could make a motion to forward it and then, or pass it, and then make amendments Might be one way.
Say that again?
We could make a motion and second, and then do amendments during discussion.
Yeah, certainly.
My only motion, because I'm not hearing that there would be consensus to totally narrow the scope, but I would like to make a motion to amend the resolution that under option number 1, we include the word permanent, so it would be changed from a property tax levy lid lift to a permanent property tax levy lid lift. So it would eliminate it would eliminate the need for staff to research a temporary lid lift.
Okay, question on procedure. Do we need to make a main motion to put it on for discussion before we amendment?
So if we're not voting on it tonight, then, council members can express all of their wishes at this time, and that can be taken into account if I don't think if we're not voting on it tonight, I don't think we need to vote on amendments tonight.
Okay.
I don't think it makes sense to vote on amendments tonight.
Do I have a second then to direct the attorney to make that change? That's all I need then.
I don't necessarily want to.
Second.
Okay, that's all we need then. We don't have a vote on it, but
Yeah, I'm unclear why we wouldn't be voting on it tonight.
we could. It's up to us.
I didn't hear a reason not to.
Does administration need a motion or just a sense of where the council's heading? I mean, I agree with what Councilman Ryan is saying, but I'm just wondering, you just need a sense of where.
What we don't want is to go through the work of exploring all three, knowing there's no way that you guys are going to do something here. In my ideal world, you will give us the option to go down this path and look at all three and get you the timeline, the feasibility, at least more of the details by the end of March. That could help you solidify, okay, this one's not feasible this year. Let's hold off on any further research on that until next year. So I think we're all on the same page as long as I get it doesn't even have to be the resolution. I just need a nod that we can move forward, but the resolution gives me that extra oomph.
I had suggested we all just high five, but nobody took me up on it.
All right, so right now we have we have a direction for attorney to change the wording in the current resolution that's been, so we have that part achieved. Is there
Yeah.
any other discussion?
Just
Go ahead, Ben.
an affirmation
Sorry,
that I think
Councilmember Zarlingo.
going forward on all three makes sense because people have talked about questions that would need to be asked and answered. And in the unusual event that we discover some rock in the road that stops something, I'd hate to have to backtrack. So in that sense, if staff is prepared to look at all three, then I think that's true. And I agree with the idea of going with the permanent as the single option for the levy lid lift.
Councilmember
President
Vogely.
Schwab.
Yeah, I'll get Vogely and then you're up.
Awesome. I imagine that I would like to know all of the questions and answers for fire and the library, like now, so that we can say no or yes, for later. I'm of the opinion that I will likely want the levy lid lift, and I definitely would like that to move forward. But even knowing if it's even possible to do fire and library is something that I need to know. So that's my thought.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Fosse.
I believe time is of the essence, and the sooner we can just decide and get this going is better. And then also, it doesn't necessarily have to be specifically added to the wording here, but some consideration of the letter that we received from our library folks. Valuable.
Okay, thank you. So right now we have a direction for our attorney to change the language in the current resolution.
Do we need to vote on that since it was a motion?
Well, we had a first and a second to change the language, and then we can either pass it now, or we can wait until next week and we can pass and make amendments.
Councilmember Ryan moves that we pass the resolution tonight.
I'll second it, sure, let's do it.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Would that be what do we need to make an amendment now to the change?
It's just a resolution, so no.
Okay.
It's just your thoughts on what it is. It's wordsmithing.
I would ultimately support a resolution, but I'm not prepared to vote tonight. So I'll be a no on this tonight, but bring it back next week and almost certainly yes.
Okay. Councilmember Fosse, I'll go. Do you have any questions or comments? Are you clear what we just did?
Yes, no,
Okay, good.
yes.
All right. Councilmember Vogely.
If it fails tonight, can we bring it back next week? Therein lies the question.
It's a, yeah, it's a
Oh, okay.
resolution.
Okay,
Yeah.
just double check.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Whether we have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you take the roll?
Vice President Zarlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Bader,
No.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. At this point, no further business come before the council. The meeting's adjourned.